Guy, the Ice Age, the coldest era of the Earth. You may have heard of it before, but are you sure you fully understand this event? What would it be like if you were a person living in that time, struggling every day to find a way to survive it? Let's close our eyes, immerse ourselves in the story, and imagine together. Before drifting into dreams, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching the channel from, and what time it is. It will be very interesting to see everyone joining us from all over the world. Now dim the lights, enjoy the quiet space, listen to the story, along with a bit of the sound of firewood. Let's embark on tonight's journey together. You awaken amid the stifling darkness of the blizzard. Icy gusts lash through the cracks in the rock walls, striking your face like thousands of silver needles. In an instant, you feel each eyebrow hair freeze, your lips numbing as if framed by ice. The wind's roar against the stone echoes like the cry of an invisible beast in pursuit. You clutch your brittle animal hide tightly, trying to trap whatever warmth remains in your body. But the merciless cold of the Ice Age waits for no one to wake or prepare. It strikes all at once, with no warning. You scream, but the sound falters in the cavern's void, buried beneath meters of ice. The night is darker than ink, lit only by the faint ember glow of a dying fire, casting a blood-red hue. Here and there, a few golden flickers still dance, offering half-hearted warmth. Under your feet, the ground is coated in a thin sheet of ice that glitters like shattered glass. With every step you hold your breath, afraid that the crackle of burning wood will summon fiercer winds. In your panic, you remember the only gear you still have to stave off the cold. The hand-stitched animal hides, the scraps of silken fabric used as lining, and a handful of dry sticks. Our ancestors called it the thick hide coat, their precious defence against the freeze honed over countless generations. But the rocks around this cave are barren, wood is scarce, and the fire will die within hours. No matter how carefully you tend it, you retreat deeper into the cave, where the temperature is a few degrees more bearable than outside. Here, the blizzard has created a natural layer of insulation. Snow cannot penetrate very far, and the earth still holds warmth from yesterday's sunlight. But that sense of warmth remains fragile. You curl into a corner, pressing your back against the rock wall, trying to conserve the heat from your body to endure. Now you realise the Ice Age is not merely an extended winter. It lasts decades, even hundreds of thousands of years, when the Earth is plunged into relentless cold. Massive ice sheets cover the northern hemisphere, seas freeze solid, and the climate becomes so brutal that each passing day is a struggle for survival. You struggle to hold warmth in each breath, your mind wandering as you think of escape. A few generations ago, your ancestors migrated from warm Africa and the tropics toward the far north in search of new prey. But migration was not merely walking. Every mile across icy ground would cost sweat and blood. Your bow and spear, with antler tips, were crafted from animal bone, but they only help you catch the famed reindeer, and then chill the remaining meat almost as soon as you've killed it. In the grip of ravenous hunger, you pull out the piece of smoked meat from yesterday. The smoky aroma stings your nostrils, like the final spark of fire, awakening a flicker of heat in your body. You bite down hard, your teeth cracking through the charred surface, then chew hastily. Your spleen clenches in protest as you swallow it, washing it down with a small sip of water drawn from the icy spring at the cave's mouth. The water is thin and tingles on your tongue, but it is better than nothing. You wonder, did the very first people also taste this sensation? They had to learn to start fires in the bitter cold, using sturdy logs to keep the flames alive. They struck flints, pyrite against quartz until a spark flew, briefly igniting a tuft of dry tinder. Even a single spark could bring the entire group back to life. You gaze toward the cave's entrance, where the snowfield stretches endlessly. Scattered across it are animal tracks. Deer, reindeer, even a few polar bear cubs. They too find ways to survive, burrowing into the ground, hiding beneath layers of snow, using their thick fur for insulation. But humans, less daunted by the cold, pressed into this harsh land because they knew how to innovate. They stitched together multi-layered hide coats and used wood and bone to build portable frames called yurts, covered with animal skins. Inside a yurt, burning dry wood created warmth while smoke slowly escaped through a vent in the roof. The crackle of the flames sounded like a mother's lullaby. You imagine yourself sitting inside that warm yurt, surrounded by your entire family, their giggles mingling with the crackle of the fire. But right now you are alone. You drop your pile of hides onto the damp floor, clutch the warmest piece, its surface still smelling of dry smoke, and form a plan in your mind. As soon as the storm eases, you will move toward the great river. Though its surface is frozen, the ice can serve as a safe ice road. There, a larger community gathers to fish beneath the ice. They cut holes, scoop out the pale fish, then smoke them to store in snow cellars. But first, you must survive this night. You curl up around the dying embers, whispering. Every breath is a victory. With each night passed, the ice age cracks a little more. The wind outside seems to answer, battering the rock wall with even greater ferocity. You close your eyes tightly, imagining yourself as a tiny snowflake drifting beneath the summer blue sky of long ago. Though you know it's only a dream, it still steadies your racing heart and preserves a little more warmth in your chest. For ancient people, survival wasn't just about resisting the cold. It was also learning to transfer warmth, carrying fire on the move in glowing embers, carefully wrapped in hide. They used animal bones as pokers to keep the flames from dying out completely. At dawn, they'd add dew logs and rekindle the fire. It was fire that gave them power, boiling water, cooking meat, warming their dry hides, and even using smoke to drive away insects and wild beasts. You draw in a deep breath, savouring that scant warmth before it dissipates. The Ice Age world may be terrifying, but it is also filled with pride. Humans refused to submit. They migrated, fashioned tools, invented methods to withstand the cold, and formed mighty tribes. The iconic creatures of this era, woolly mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, cave bears, were both prized prey and sources of invaluable fur and hides. You open your eyes as weak rays of sunlight slip through the rock crevice, gilding the snow outside the cave mouth. The wind still whistles out there, but it is no longer as fierce as last night. It seems to breathe softly, urging you to leave the cave quickly before the cold seeps deeper into the stone. A winter that lasts thousands of years allows no room for complacency. You spring to your feet and swiftly arrange the scattered embers and charcoal into a pile. Tiny sparks of ash leap up like little stars in the frozen air. Warmth spreads rapidly, softening the surface of the hide wrapped around you. You carefully pick up small sticks one by one, mixing them into the glowing coals to build a new fire. Your heart races with hope, because every fire you successfully kindle is an ally, a refuge against the biting cold and gnawing hunger. Before leaving the cave, you check your gear. The sheet wool lining is worn thin in places, but still holds warmth. The crude tool pouch contains your fire steel, slender wooden tinder sticks, and a few scraps of dry hide for kindling. You take a deep breath, then step out through the mouth of the cave, placing your foot on the clear ice. Each footfall produces a soft, crack thud, the snow's whisper, the land's faint sigh. The path ahead is uneven. The vast snowfield rolls in frozen waves, rising and falling like an ocean turned to ice. You lean over and brace your hand against a smooth deadwood tree trunk, the bleached bare remnant of a long frozen forest. From its base, you tie a length of vine cord into a makeshift staff. It helps you anchor yourself on the ice and prevents you from slipping. You continue onward and come upon the tracks of a reindeer herd that left the cave long ago. Their hooves are deeply imprinted in the wet snow, forming rippling trails. Each print is twice the width of your palm, a testament to the animal's strength. You sniff into the wind, searching for the scent of fat and fur, but all you detect is the mingled aroma of snow and stone. The herd has headed east toward the sparse, shrub-dotted plains. An unlikely region, yet for those who know how to survive, a hidden cache of sustenance. Tender grasses pushing through the thin snow to feed the reindeer. You draw in a sharp breath, savouring the crisp air before closing your eyes. In your mind's eye, you stride beneath a blazing sunset, each ray illuminating the backs of the reindeer and painting a majestic tableau across the frozen wilderness. But in reality, all you carry is a small bone dagger and a rudimentary bow strung with rawhide. You stop at the trail's edge, plant your staff, and draw your bow. The arrow quivers against its string, brushing lightly against your frosty cheek. The last time you hunted was 3 days ago. The fierce cave bears lurk near the entrance. They often creep in, while you and your kin are away, seeking a meal. You lost your last companion when you tried to trap a mother bear protecting her cub. That memory chills you more than the ice all around. You sigh, pressing your fingertip against the scrap of hide you're using as tinder, then blow gently to reignite the ember. As warmth flickers on your fingertip, you quickly wipe the damp hide on the flame to dry it out, then wrap it up carefully. You move on, heading toward the region's largest frozen river. A frozen river is the highway of the Ice Age, the route where people discovered they could travel faster over heavy snow. They laid flat wooden runners on the ice, primitive sled boards, and tied them to their ankles with rawhide straps, letting their bodies glide across the surface. A basic sled rig, made of multiple layers of hide and smooth, brown wooden planks, was the first vehicle of prehistoric humans. You sit cross-legged, slide yourself under the thin wooden board, and wrap the rawhide straps around your ankles before lowering your body onto it. The feel of the ice beneath the slender plank hums and crackles like a delicate bell. You lean to one side, press gently with your staff, and the sled skims forward across the snow. This surge of speed feels liberating, sending your heart racing. But freedom comes with danger. Hidden crevasses in the ice can suddenly open beneath you, and you could crash through the thick frozen surface and be badly injured. You plant your staff firmly to brake, then leap off the plank just before reaching a long fissure. You press your bare feet into the snow, every fibre of your hide lining tingling with cold. A choked-up smile crosses your face. In that fleeting moment, you've tasted the exhilaration of gliding over the frozen world. This was one of your ancestors' great inventions, using the very ice around them to travel swiftly, chase down prey, or escape from enemies. You lift your head to see the sun riding higher, the ice river gleaming silver beneath a steely sky. On the far bank, a low hill is dotted with frost-hardy shrubs. You know that beneath their broken branches lie dried termite nests, where insects have huddled, which, though meagre, will give you energy. You slip back onto your sled board, draw a deep breath, and launch yourself across the river. The wind whistles past your ears, and shafts of light dance on the ice beneath your feet. When you set foot on the far shore, your feet curl up, trembling as if embarrassed. Yet you smile. Every step across the frozen expanse must confront fear and cold, and through that you survive and learn to adapt. You stoop down, dig a small hollow beneath the tree's roots, and scoop out a handful of crisp, dried termites. The mingled scent of damp earth and toasted insects drifts up as you pop them into your mouth. The crackle of your teeth crushing them sounds harsh, but you swallow quickly. Your throat is already parched from the cold. You push yourself up, neatly tie the sled straps into your hide pouch, then tread along the hillside toward the southeast, where limestone caves promise more secure shelter. You wonder, how many days will your tribe's migration take? How many nights, how many times will the cold test the human spirit? But you are not alone. Beneath the frozen sky, all of humankind has fought the Ice Age together, with fire, with hide coats, with sled boards, and with boundless creative ingenuity. Pressing onward, you come upon a stark white cliff. Above, a small cave mouth juts out like a dragon's maw. You reach up to the rock face, feeling its numbing chill, then climb inside. A breath of milder air wafts around you, and you hear the drip of melting ice falling from the ceiling onto the stone floor. You smile softly. This will be your next resting place, where you can boil water at an underground spring, and where natural dry wood and solid stone will help keep you warm for longer. You lay the thick hide on the cave floor and build a fire in a dry spot. As the flames roar to life, their glow outlines the cave in a strangely comforting warmth, tracing a shimmering circle across the white rock walls. You close your eyes and listen to the drip of melting ice, the crackle of burning wood, and your own breathing. In that moment, you realise that the Ice Age is not an endless nightmare, but a journey that tests the will, sparks creativity, and forges a bond between humanity and nature. A heroic chapter of history that you are writing with every passing moment. You tend the small fire in the rock cave, your eyes following the ghostly blue flames dancing in the dim space. Suddenly, a wisp of smoke drifts from a distant crack in the rocks, sign of another fire. Your heart quickens. Perhaps you are not alone in this frozen land. Silently you pack your hide pouch, tuck the fire stick, and a long burning scrap of dried hide at your side, and carefully step outside. Under the leaden sky, you head toward the smoke, where two figures flicker through the falling snow. With each step, you press into the snow, the soft crunch echoing in the desolate wilderness. As you draw near, you recognize two faces hidden beneath furled hides. Their eyes light up when they spot your fire. They do not draw bows or spears. Instead, they beckon you to join their circle of warmth. You nod and offer a slight bow. The wind whistles through the crevice like a welcoming hymn to your meeting. The two strangers share with you a piece of smoked meat and a cup of warm water. As the liquid melts in your parched throat, your blood seems to come alive. You return their kindness with a grateful smile. Though spoken language remains unclear across wide nomadic groups, a shared smile and a fire suffice to connect. They sit in a circle around the flames, gesturing to their finely crafted hide garments and hunting tools, a longer bow, arrows tipped with antler prongs, and a knife carved from cave lion bone. The person to your left traces lines in the ground with a finger, telling of a migration from distant northern lands, across grasslands that were once perhaps warmer. The one on your right points first to the sky, then to the cliff where you now shelter, conveying that this is one of their defensive outposts, a place where the group can take refuge for several days. You listen intently, learning how to use double-tipped arrows to hunt short-horned deer, how to lash hide scraps into fur-lined boot covers to keep your feet from freezing. Precious secrets of the Ice Age nomadic community. You offer a splinter of wood, indicating that you can carve symbols, and then use charcoal to mark, "I come from the south," a greeting and a claim to temporary territory. Amid the drifting snow, the group members take turns displaying their anti-cold treasures. A rapid erect canvas and hide tent frame made from compressed whalebone segments, a hide pouch containing glowing embers to carry fire on the move, even an airbag, a leather pouch holding warm air pressed against the chest to help you retain heat in the bitter cold. You commit every detail to memory, mentally rehearsing each gesture, because here survival isn't just about the individual, it's a testament to the power of community. As the sun sinks behind the ice-clad mountains, the temperature plummets once more. You and your new companions fall silent, exchanging encouraging looks. They invite you to sleep with them in the large hide tent. You slip between two overlapping layers of sewn hides, feeling cradled in a warm nest. Around you the wind hums a lullaby, and the crackle of embers provides the soundtrack for much-needed rest. You awaken to a faint rustle. A young Arctic wolf slinks toward the tent opening, its nose lifted in search of the scent of animal fat or human breath. You point at the long spear propped beside the tent. An alert gesture. Your nomadic friends leap up, bristling their spears at the entrance to form a living barricade. The wolf hesitates, lets out a low howl, then melts back into the night. You exhale in relief, realizing that even within a community, enemies still prowl the Ice Age. The next morning you gather with the group for a small council by the frozen riverbank. They unroll a rough map, marking snowbound regions you must avoid, pyrite deposits for fire starting, and sheltered earth hollows that hold residual warmth. You take a coal briquette and sketch footprints and arrows to contribute your knowledge of the reindeer migration you once tracked. In times of hardship, sharing information is as vital as meat or hides. Before parting ways, they hand you an amulet made from a cave bear's claw, a symbol of strength and perseverance. Take this to remember that you belong to this ice age, they say. You nod and tuck the amulet into your hide pouch at your left chest, where your body's warmth always gathers. Stepping forward across the ice, you tell yourself, it is through unity and the art of crafting that humanity has overcome the ice age. From the hastily erected hide tent to the wooden sled board, from the portable fire to this protective amulet, each innovation carries both the power of survival and the spirit of resilience. Though this was only chapter 1, you have endured a night of life and death, a morning of friendship and learning, and now you are ready to continue your journey in search of warmer lands. Twilight slowly descended over the endless white ice, bringing with it a layer of biting cold that settled in the air. You pulled on your thick, fur-lined hide coat and stepped onto the ice road, which glittered under the sunset. The wind lashed your face like thousands of silver needles, but you had grown accustomed to that numbness. For it is in the very cold that you find the strength to survive. You headed toward the valley the nomadic group had pointed out, a vast icy gorge that was once a shallow lake, now frozen into a massive ice bridge. According to your new companions, that valley concealed abundant food and a more pleasant climate. Less wind, gentle snowfall, and a warm underground spring winding through the rock. Descending the hillside, you slipped through a sparse stand of skeletal trees, their bark crusted with ice and their branches groaning under the weight of snow. The axe marks from your earlier chopping remained, rough but certain. Now you used the axe to split long logs and stack them on a smoking rack beside the cave, so you could smoke meat without fear of the fire being extinguished by the wind. As you laid the last log on the rack, a heavy sound echoed from afar, the massive footfall of something crossing the chasm. You looked up, your heart catching in your throat. Before you stood the powerful form of a woolly mammoth, its curved tusks gleaming silver. Snow clung thickly to its fur, and its breath turned to white mist before its trunk. It did not charge. Perhaps the strange sound and flickering fire had merely piqued its curiosity. You stepped back a few paces, knocking a pronged arrow while holding your hide shield against your chest. The arrow trembled on the bowstring, ready to be loosed. But as you aimed at the mammoth's thick hide, you realized the creature's pelt was the most precious material, far thicker than any human hide. Enough to keep your entire family warm through a long winter. The warmth from the smoking fire swirled around you, redolent of damp wood. You inhaled deeply, steeled your mind and released the arrow. With a faint whoosh, it flew true, embedding itself deep in the mammoth's shoulder hide. The beast flinched and trumpeted in fury, but did not bolt immediately. Perhaps instinct told it to distance itself from the source of pain before rejoining its herd. Seizing that moment, you swung your axe at the loosened hide. Thick strips fell away, and you gathered them quickly, binding them with sturdy leather thongs. Blood pooled on the ice, a stark contrast to the pristine white. The cold, metallic tang of raw flesh hit your nostrils, but you felt no revulsion. This was the essence of survival. After making basic preparations, you returned to the cave and set up the smoking rack to preserve the hides and meat. Each gust of wind muted the crackle of the wood, and grey smoke curled up the rock walls. You sat hugging your knees by the fire, the mammoth hide draped over. Them, its thick warmth seeping into your legs. In that moment the cold receded, replaced by pride and hope. You had triumphed over one of the greatest beasts of the Ice Age. Night fell, and you curled up in your first mammoth hide blanket, 3 times thicker than an ordinary covering, keeping you warm to the bone. In your dreams you drifted aboard a glittering ice vessel, gliding across the frozen sea as the nomadic group sang their song of survival. And you, the listener, were at the helm, strong, resilient, and brilliantly creative. At dawn's first light the next morning, you would break camp, load the meat and hides onto your wooden sled, and continue your journey toward that warm valley, where an early Ice Age spring awaited, with hot springs, rare green meadows, and the promise of renewal for humankind. You lean forward, step over the edge of the rock cave, and set foot on the smooth ice. Beneath your thick mammoth hide, you no longer feel each needle-sharp chill piercing your ankles. Looking toward the valley, the dawn light isn't yet brilliant, but is enough to reveal veins of iridescent jade-green ice, the trace of a warm underground stream below. The wind is gentler, carrying the faint scent of warm vapour rising from cracks. You bend low, press your hand against the ice, and bring it to your nose. A whisper of warmth lingers, proof that beneath this frozen surface, life still flows unseen. Heart racing with excitement, you give a strong push to your wooden sled board and glide down the hillside, floating as if on a cloud of ice. When the sled comes to rest before a moss-covered cliff, you jump off, wrap the mammoth hide tightly around yourself, and enter the arched cave mouth. Inside, warmth from the earth mingles with smoke from hidden embers, creating an atmosphere far more pleasant than outside. Your heart blossoms. This is the warm cave your ancestors carved to shelter from the storm. You build a fire beside a mossy rock, squat on your hide pouch, and gaze up at the cavern's ceiling, where droplets fall with soft plinks. You cup your hands to catch the drips, drink the first mouthful, a sweet, mineral-tinged warmth that makes you shiver with happiness. Beside you, your ember pouch wrapped in thin hide ensures your mobile fire won't die while you explore. But before resting, you resolve to survey the valley. Leaving the cave, you follow a narrow rock ledge down toward the bottom. Underfoot, frozen sand and slippery pebbles force you to use your staff to steady each natural stone step. With every footfall, you manage your body heat. Less sweat meet the cold and freeze mid-garment. At last you reach the valley floor, where the ice-clad arch overhead and frozen walls form a cold tableau that still harbours life. Stunted shrubs push through the thin snow, their white frosted berries the only plants bold enough to sprout after millennia of ice. You pick a few berries, their tartness sharp on your tongue, providing precious vitamins against winter's weakness. In the distance you see a flickering fire, sign of the ice village the nomads have built. Concealing yourself behind a boulder, you observe 10 low tents framed with either small whale rib bones or snow-hardened logs, covered with stretched hides. The warm embers glow golden against the striped skins, lending a cosy feel amid the frozen sea. You step forward, raise both hands in a gesture of peace and greeting. The villagers turn, their eyes shining when they see you clad in mammoth hide, solid and warm. A burly man approaches, the wind along his lips turning his breath to mist. "Welcome, traveller. From which direction do you come?" You answer softly, drawing in the air with your hand. "From the south, across the ice river." Then point to your mammoth hide. The man nods in understanding and leads you to the village centre, where a large fire burns under a rock overhang. By the flames, the women crowd around, quickly offering you a bowl of reindeer meat stew with dried roots. You sip spoonful by spoonful, the warming broth coursing through your body like gentle currents. They tell you that over the past month, the valley has seen lighter snowstorms, allowing them to trial plant cold-hardy fern shoots, reserved food for the long winter. You watch closely as they dig fern tubers, soak them in warm water, then smoke dry them in snow cellars. Each step is handcrafted and meticulous, but in return they secure a varied food supply of smoked meat and dried roots, enough not only to survive but to regain strength. After the meal, you're invited to join the warming rite, a distinctive ceremony. Each person holds a small oil lamp made from seal blubber, whose fish oil burns long and casts a soft glow. As night falls, the entire village forms a circle around the main fire, passing lamps from one to the next, symbolising the transmission of warmth and solidarity. You hold the lamp, feel its flame flicker, and close your eyes to make a wish. May the road ahead always hold fire to warm us and companions to share it. A soft song rises, a timeless melody of the old days when humans first touched the ice, learned to kindle fire in rock walls, and began their migrations. You hear it echo across the frozen expanse, a reminder that no matter how harsh the weather, human strength lies in creativity and community. Before spending the night in the large tent, you are given a pouch of fern seeds and several smoked tubers. Carry these with you and plant them when you reach warmer lands, the village elder tells you. You nod and carefully stow them inside your hide coat. You curl up in your mammoth hide, listening to the wind pounding outside the cave. Like the frozen world soundtrack, sleep comes gently, closing the chapter of a challenging and triumphant beginning. You awake as dawn light filters through the mammoth hide, painting warm golden streaks on the tent walls. In that moment you wonder, how many more winters must we endure before humanity fully masters the ice? Before you, the valley lies still, only smoke from the village's large hide tent drifting upward against the grey sky. You follow your own footprints and step out of the tent, immediately feeling the morning chill wrap around you. But this cold is not as fierce as the first time you touched ice. It carries the breath of a new beginning, a reminder that you have come farther than the harshest reaches of the Ice Age. You ask yourself, did the wounds of old forge us into something stronger? A soft clatter reaches you as a group of young nomads break excess hide to pair fern tubers. They chat and laugh, planning their first month on the outskirts, gathering fresh shoots, finding resin to stave off cold, trial planting fern seeds. You step closer, join in the work, your hands deftly peeling away the dry outer layer to reveal the tender core. You ask them, is this your first time planting seeds in unfrozen earth? A young woman nods, her eyes shining with hopeful anticipation. No words are needed beyond that breathless moment before their new challenge, sowing seeds in the midst of lingering cold. You continue toward the small river, the warm underground stream that stays a few degrees above freezing. You sip its clear water, then gaze across. The river's ice crust is cracked, revealing patches of dark water. You wonder, can this warm water sustain a first spring in a thawing ice age? On the far bank you spot a makeshift garden, raised beds of warm soil ringed by stones to hold heat. In them, a few fern seedlings have sprouted, bright green against the white snow. You cross your improvised ice bridge, a row of small logs lashed with rawhide, and kneel to inspect each plant, delicate new fronds trembling in the warm breeze. You whisper to yourself, these green shoots, are they a promise of a warmer future? Then you carefully dig around the roots and mix in crushed wood ash, natural minerals, to feed the plants and protect them from cold. As the sun climbs higher, you return to the heart of the village, where everyone is gathering for the Song of the Thaw ceremony. Animal hide drums beat in rhythm, joined by flutes carved from bone that warm the air with their melody. You sit by the fire and listen to the ancient tune. Is there a melody strong enough to dispel thousands of years of darkness? You wonder, is music an invisible fire, warming the human soul in the ice? After the ritual, the village elder invites you to help draft the Spring Accord, a record of Ice Age survival lessons, how to kindle fire, craft hides, skate on ice and experiment with cultivation. You mark the temporary rock wall with charcoal. In the blizzard we find fire. In the ice we sow seeds of hope. You look upon your inscription with pride. Perhaps this record will help future generations not only survive but thrive. In the afternoon, the young nomads lead you to a side valley where a natural hot spring emerges. You follow them through moss-clad rocks, and suddenly a small steamy pool appears in the cold air, a misty illusion. You sit at its edge, dipping your hand into the warm water and feeling every nerve relax. You ask them, can the power of warm water soothe our aching bodies after hours of cold? They laugh and beckon you to step barefoot into the pool, letting the warmth seep into your numbed feet. You exclaim, "This truly is a miracle amid the ice." As dusk approaches, you help harvest young fern fronds to smoke and preserve for food. Smoke rises, mingling with the scent of damp wood and tangy fern, a smell of life returning. You ask yourself, is life a series of warm hollows and green shoots, linked together across the frozen wilderness? Before night falls, you and the community gather to share the first spring harvest of the Ice Age: hot fern soup, smoked meat, and fermented berry wine. You raise your cup, inhale deeply, and speak. Here's to our first spring on this frozen land. Here's to life that never yields. Cups clap together in triumph. You feel warmth spread through your body and through your heart. As you wrap yourself in your hide blanket one last time before sleep, you ponder, can humanity paint an even grander masterpiece of survival in the Ice Age? The answer lies in your warm breath and the flickering fire outside the cave. You leave the warm valley on a misty morning, carrying the cave bear claw amulet and the pouch of fern seeds. Before you stretches the foothills, rougher terrain. The snow has receded, but each hummock remains coated in a thin layer of ice. You wonder, could this land hold enough potential for our first fields? Might tender shoots push through the lingering frost? You climb slowly up the hillside, arms wrapped around your bundle of dry wood and the hide flask of glowing embers. Each foot slips on the thin ice, but you have learned to distribute your weight, part braced by your staff, part balanced heel to toe. The wind beats steadily against your face, carrying the scent of dry pines along the ridge. Around you, stubby willow bushes are budding, an early sign of an Ice Age summer. You ask yourself, did our ancestors choose this place for trial cultivation, using hardy, thorny shrubs as a protective shield? Reaching the hillside's base, you discover a strip of dark brown soil where the sun has melted snow fastest. This seems ideal for sowing seeds. You scatter a handful of crushed wood ash over the surface to supply nutrients and retain moisture, then sprinkle in your fern seeds, gently covering them with a layer of decayed leaves gathered from dry forests by migrating bands. You murmur, will these tiny seeds manage to sprout despite the remaining ice? Less than an hour later, the sun shines more strongly. You drape a piece of dry hide over your newly sown patch, creating a warm mat, and the faint smoke from your ember flask behind you offers a little heat. You reflect, could this small flame be the invisible power that nurtures hope and life? When you finish packing up, a gust of wind sweeps across and lifts your hide cover from the seeds, but the seeds remain intact beneath the leaf layer. You exhale in relief and press deeper into the hills. The path winds around bruised rock faces, where ice stalactites hang like silver ribbons. Their shimmering light makes you think, were these mineral-laden icicles ever harvested to forge tools? At a narrow stream, you pause to refresh yourself. The ice has melted, revealing an ever-warm spring. You scoop and drink deeply, the sweetness of minerals and gentle warmth soothing your throat. You wonder, has this stream saved thousands of generations, and will it continue to nourish our first green fields? Beside the water, you find evidence of a polar bear's den, bones and tufts of fur caught in a rock crevice. The bear has awakened from hibernation, but you feel not fear, only reverence. Does that creature know that, like them, we too are learning to adapt and survive? You stoop to pick up a strand of bear fur, sniff it, and tuck it into your pouch. These fibres will line your hide garments, increasing your warmth. Then you stride onward, aiming for a higher ridge where bare boulders form a natural rock platform. There you discover the remains of an ancient hearth, stones ringed around fossilised embers, evidence that your ancestors once built fires here. You lay your hand on the still warm rock marked by smoke and ask yourself, how many generations have passed this tradition of fire building down? How many survival secrets lie hidden in these hills? At the hilltop, you erect a modest camp, small sticks propped against each other and draped with hide to form a shelter. Beneath this canopy, you arrange your tools: fire steel, staff, bone knife, and reveal a stone mortar for grinding seeds. You recall the elders' words, record every discovery, however small. Taking charcoal, you sketch your camp's layouts onto a dry birch bark, the spring's location, the seed bed, the prevailing wind direction. In the afternoon, as the sun lowers, you descend to the stream again to gather water and collect a few withered leaves. Your ancestors might have used these as natural fertilizer. You soak the leaves in warm spring water, then pour the infusion over your seed plot. You wonder, is this hands-on method, using decomposed leaves and ash, the precursor to modern fertilization? When dusk falls, you kindle a small fire in front of your shelter, roasting a few dried fern tubers and pieces of smoked meat. The smoke's rich perfume mingles with the damp wood aroma, the flavour of new beginnings. Holding a chunk of meat, you gaze at the grease-stained palm of your hand and ask yourself, is today's meal like the very first feast of settled peoples, where food ceased to be mere survival and began forging culture? In the silent mountain air, you close your eyes and whisper, on rocky ground, fire and green shoots both take root. Even in the cold, hope continues to blaze. You awaken at dawn as the warmth from the glowing embers presses against your mammoth hide coat. The pale light of sunrise filters through the rough hide, casting streaks of gold onto the piece of birch bark on which you sketched your camp layout. You open your eyes, inhale the air laced with the scent of burning wood, and wonder, today when the sun climbs higher, will I harvest the first tender shoot? You step out cautiously and scan the ground. Your seedbed from yesterday is still covered with its insulating layer of leaves and ash. Gently you brush aside the leaves and peer down. A bright green sprout, no taller than your fingertip, has pushed through the soil. Your heart surges with joy. Is this proof of the power of perseverance and hope? You kneel and dig around the tiny plant, counting flecks of frozen soil in its roots, then lift it into your palm. The scent of damp earth mingles with ash, the fragrance of life reborn. You whisper, this little sprout has braved the frost to declare, we can conquer the ice. Throughout the camp, voices rise in celebration as you carry the sprout to the circle of fire. Everyone gathers around and claps encouragement. An elder among them fans the young plant gently with a bare fur whisk, magic to create warmth around its delicate leaves. You see humanity and nature in harmony. Even ice and fire now conspire to nurture life. After the sprout ceremony, you and the group hurriedly prepare an expanded trial plot. They dig a deeper bed of soil, layer dry leaves and moss beneath, and you, alongside the young nomads, sow the remaining seeds. You wonder, will this soil retain enough warmth for the sprout to keep growing? Will the next blizzard wash away our hope? Your questions seem answered when a sunbeam pierces the clouds and shines directly on the new bed. The air warms by several degrees, enough to melt the thin ice on the surface. You and your companions gather more ash and decayed leaves and cover the bed with them like a blanket to shelter the seeds. At midday, you invite everyone to rest by the stream. The gentle babble of warm water provides the soundtrack to your meal. Reindeer stew, simmered with fern tubers, smoked meat, and a few Arctic radishes, foraged from nearby crevices. You taste each tender radish, noting there's a distinct clean sweetness, like a union of ice and fire. You share, we are eating the fruits of our efforts and cooperation. After lunch, the nomads hold a small warm market. Everyone brings a handmade item, hot water hide flasks, wooden sled boards, even whalebone tent frames. You offer your fern seeds and smoked tubers in exchange for a special roll of soft rawhide from the village tanner. You wonder, will this strap sustain me on this endless journey? In the late afternoon, a cold wind rises in gusts. You and the group hurry to reinforce the seedbed, adding another leaf layer and wedging stones around the edges as a windbreak. On a nearby rock wall, you leave a charcoal inscription as a reminder. When the frost buries us, calm is strength. When the sprout rises, hope is a torch. You gaze at the winding stream below the hill and ask yourself, will this water lead us to warmer lands, Will there be a day we plant barley or millet on this ground? The question remains open, but you know, it is such dreams that make history. As night falls, you circle the fire with the nomads and listen to their tale of the first experiment with natural, hot ground greenhouses, placing seed beds inside a steaming cave to harness moisture and stable warmth. You eagerly record on birch bark, cave greenhouse, a miraculous survival innovation. Before you close your eyes, you pull out the bear claw amulet, stroke its smooth surface, and think, this bear claw helped me withstand the blizzard. Will it bring luck to our first harvest? You awaken at first light as weak rays peek through the small opening in your shelter's roof, illuminating the warm mammoth hide wrapped around you. The heat from the glowing embers still radiates against your back, yet you know a new, challenging day lies ahead. You wonder, if snow returns today, will our seed beds stay warm enough for the sprouts to keep growing? Stepping out of camp, you tread lightly on the thin snow blanketing the hills. Beneath your feet, your footprints and those of the nomads lead back to the trial plot. When you arrive, you see the insulating leaves have been blown aside, and a few tender shoots protrude, trembling in the chill air. You bend down, pull the leaves back into place, and gently cradle each tiny plant. You whisper, "Are there weak sprouts that cannot withstand this wind? What must we do to protect them?" You and the nomads quickly gather leftover decayed leaves and recover the plot, then tuck a rawhide cord around its edges to block the gusts. One member mixes ash with straw chaff and sprinkles it lightly over the surface like a thermal blanket. An ingenious idea you immediately note. Warm ash mantle, a second coat for our sprouts. Finishing the work, you inhale deeply and look up at the grey sky. Clouds race overhead, warning that snow could fall at any moment. You ask yourself, will this storm last so long we must find longer shelter? Or will it pass quickly, leaving clear skies behind? Returning to camp, you join the morning camp council. Everyone gathers around a large rock where your birch bark sketch is posted as a communal map. The elder points with a stick to key locations: the seed plot, the hot spring, safe stream crossings and the route up the high ridge. You suggest, we should inspect the seedbed after each snowfall and log the date and snow depth so we can adjust our coverings accordingly. Your proposal pauses the council briefly before everyone nods in agreement, promising to keep a weather diary. After the council, the young nomads invite you to a rapid, cold defence drill. Each person is given a thin hide and must fashion it into a temporary jacket. Whoever sews it fastest and tightest in the biting wind wins a special fern tuber as a prize. You take the hide and deftly stitch its edges, each small needlework movement testing your skill and reminding you, is hide sewing truly an art of survival? Could one careless stitch cost us vital warmth? In the afternoon, a sudden light snowfall begins. You and the nomads drop your tasks to reinforce the seedbed and secure the shelter's walls. Meanwhile, the village elders share the tale of the first snow day, the day their ancestors first arrived in the valley, and a blizzard erased their footprints, leaving only the faint glow of their fire beneath a rock. You listen, filled with admiration, and ask yourself, do we have the courage to face such icy beginnings? As night falls, the snowfall tapers into a thin glaze of ice over everything. You add more wood to the fire, creating a moment of warmth amid the cold. By its light, you open your pouch of fern seeds and gaze at the tiny grains mixed with the leaf litter and the faint green of hidden shoots. You whisper, will these seeds one day grow into a verdant field? You wrap your hide blanket tight, lean against the shelter's rock wall, and listen to the wind rattling the hide above. In your heart, you commit to memory all the questions, ideas, and hopes you've gathered, preparing for the next chapter of your journey, when Ice Age spring truly blooms and humanity begins to build the first warm lands amid the frozen sea. You leave camp in the early mist, your footsteps unsteady, as the pale snow still glimmers before the tent's lantern light. In your hide pouch, the fern seeds are gone, and the bear claw amulet swings with each step, Ahead of you, a new trail winds south across the low hills, toward lands rumoured to be warmer. You wonder, at the end of this path, will green fields truly await us? Setting out, you stoop to brush a flake of ice from your bone knife. You tap it gently, and it melts into a strange droplet, an echo that even ice must yield to flowing water. You sheath the knife, hook your staff to your pouch, and press up the steep limestone slope dotted with snow. Old footprints and sled track markings fade here as you walk on foot to explore unfamiliar ground, dry grass-covered knolls and jagged limestone outcrops. The late-day breeze carries smoke from distant campfires, voices of other nomadic groups laughing in place of the wind's howl. Life, it seems, reaches out to greet you. You slip into a narrow cleft between wind-shielding cliffs and find the charred remains of a previous hearth, proof that a relay station once stood here. You kneel, trace your finger through the dry charcoal, and murmur, could this ancestor's gift, a piece of glowing coal, light the way for even longer journeys? Moving on, you come upon a swift side stream, flowing through a narrow channel, unfrozen despite the chill. You scoop up water to drink, then look skyward. Grey clouds tinged with pink signal the sun's imminent rise. You ask yourself, will today's first sunlight on this new land be strong enough to melt the lingering cold? Crossing the ridge's edge, the landscape shifts. The thin snow gives way to a carpet of tawny grass, dotted with white blossoming thorn shrubs, the Ice Age's hardiest bloomers. You kneel to pluck one blossom and smell its faint sweetness. In that moment your heart races. You have unmistakable proof that the land ahead is transforming. You whisper, are we approaching a milder climate where grass is green and flowers bloom year-round? You follow the path down into a small valley where the soil gleams a warm brown. Slanting sunlight filters through the cliffs, painting patches of light that contrast with shadowed grasses. You find a large flat boulder, nature's altar, where ancestors may have once camped. You set down your pouch, unroll your birch bark map, and point with a charcoal stick at the mark labelled Warm Lands. You estimate it's only a day's walk away. You wonder, tomorrow when the sun stands high, will we see the vibrant valley of Ice Age spring? At midday, you kindle a fire beside the boulder and roast the fern roots you carried. Their tangy aroma mingles with smoke, restoring your strength. You savour a few bites and hastily note the insight. Smoked fern roots, portable sustenance for the long trek. By late afternoon, the wind warms noticeably. You continue along the small riverbank, where the thin ice has nearly vanished, revealing a makeshift wooden bridge, sign of those who passed before. There you meet 3 travellers who invite you to share cod and wild potato soup. They introduce themselves as the Ice Age's road engineers, specialists in building ice bridges and safe pathways. You exclaim, how long have our ancestors organised engineering teams like this? Their story deepens your respect for cooperation. Only united can humans overcome the ice. As dusk falls across the valley, you part from the engineers and press on toward the final mark on your map. In the dim light, you glimpse a small meadow ghosting in the haze, a green patch like a prophecy of spring. Drawing closer, you see tender grass shoots and shimmering pools where birds gather. You can't help but smile. Could this be the first warm land the Ice Age people have found after so many long winters? In that little meadow, you set up a simple camp. Today you have truly conquered new ground, where cold yields to life. You build a fire from dry sticks, weave grass under your shelter for insulation, and sit by the flames, gazing at the faint green meadow before you. You whisper, is this the beginning of bountiful fields on the frozen earth? You awaken to the wind whistling through the young grass, dawn light peeking over the distant tree line. Beneath the warm mammoth hide, your heart still races after yesterday's long trek. You spring up, inhale deeply the air scented with the new meadow's dampness, and wonder, what surprises will this land bring today? Exiting your temporary camp, your boots squelch in the thin wet snow. You plant your staff and lift the hide flap to inspect the seedbed. Fronds remain vibrant, yet along the tent's edge, a long crack has formed in the soil, as if warning of powerful shifts below. You dismiss it as a seasonal sign, but can a small fissure herald something more fearsome? You continue along the trail into the thorn shrub grove a few hundred paces away, intending to gather more decayed leaves for the bed, when the ground trembles underfoot, followed by a crackling like limestone snapping. You freeze, taut as a bowstring, and think, have I just stepped atop a hidden cavern? Before you can steady yourself, the earth beneath suddenly collapses. A gaping fissure yawns open, wide enough for morning light to pierce its depths. You jerk back, sprawling in wet soil and loose pebbles as the grounds rumble and spreading cracks surround you. You scream in shock. Why has a moment of calm morphed into a nightmare? In that instant, you snatch your staff, hauling yourself back from the pit's edge. The slick earth nearly pulls you in. Above, the sky seems to spin as wind funnels through the crack, dragging thin snow tufts with it. You wonder, might this land have once been a dormant volcano mouth, now revealing its hidden secrets? At last you scramble free from the collapsed ground and retreat behind a thorn bush. Your heart hammers, and sweat beads even in the chill. You carve a quick X into birch bark to mark the pit's location, coordinates to warn others. But can a lone X truly prevent someone from stumbling into that abyss? You step back, peering through the shrubs at the valley floor. Low clouds cast a gloomy shadow. Suddenly a distant roar echoes, not an animal, but the sound of rockfall on the far slope. The earth shudders as small boulders tumble, spilling across the ravine. You ask yourself, could a sudden landslide bury all our efforts in an instant? Wasting no time, you sprint uphill toward yesterday's campsite. Along the way, you freeze. A massive boulder now blocks the path to the natural shelter you'd planned. You pause, weighing your options. Should I carve a new route with my small pick, or return to the old camp under greater danger? Deciding quickly, you grip a tree trunk and use your bone pick to carve a shallow notch in the stone as a makeshift handhold, each chip ringing like an alarm bell in the pervasive cold. Finally, you clamber onto level ground and look back. The earlier pit has widened into a black chasm. Gasping, you wonder, is this the start of new perils or merely a trial to prove my resolve? Returning to camp, the wind has shifted, stirring the young grasses. You glance at your empty fern seed pouch, then steel yourself. No matter how many traps lie ahead, I will not retreat. You quickly build a fire at the clearing's centre, encircle it with stones and scribble with charcoal on the tent wall. The ground opened beneath our feet, reminder that even fertile lands hide deadly traps. You spread out your sketched map, marking the collapsed site and the fallen boulder. Then you ask, am I brave and clever enough to lead the nomadic group safely around this danger? Is that promised warm land truly safer than our Ice Age realm? That evening you sit huddled by the fire, hand resting on the bear claw amulet. In the dancing flames, the claw glows as if ablaze, reminding you that, though danger can strike unexpectedly, steadfast spirit and careful preparation are your keys to survival. You whisper, what challenges lie ahead on this journey? And am I ready to face them? You sit by the fire, fingers stroking the bear claw amulet, trying to steady your racing heart. Outside the tent, the wind howls like a challenge. Will you give up? You tilt your head, watch the smoke spiral up under the canvas, and imagine the faces of your fellow nomads, how they trust you to lead them. You ask yourself, what consequences would follow if I falter? The next morning, a thin veil of snow still dusts the ground around the tent. You and your 3 companions return to the collapsed pit. The crack in the earth has widened overnight, and wind whistling through the chasm sounds like an alarm horn. You lean back against a nearby boulder, studying the spread of the fissure. With limited tools, you have no pickaxe, only your staff and bone knife. You consider, can I close this crack temporarily by dumping earth and stones, or must we carve a detour? You decide to test a safe crossing. With your bone knife, you carve small footholds into the rock beside the chasm. You plant your staff in the crevice, Brace against a thorn bush and press your left foot onto the first notch. A jolt of cold shoots through your soul as it sinks slightly. You push harder, then swing your right foot across and hook it on the far edge. You ask yourself, is this courage enough to guide the group safely over? Having proven the crossing, you call your companions forward. Follow me one at a time. Don't look down into the abyss. Keep your eyes fixed on the far bank. Your voice sounds firm despite its hoarseness from stress. One companion trembles as she steps onto the carved notch, eyes glued to the brink. You rest a hand on her shoulder, reassuring, just one more small step, and you'll be across. One by one, they cling to the notches and cross the chasm. When the last person is safe, you exhale, feeling the pressure ease. But danger is not over. The boulder blocking the trail still stands. You turn to the road, engineers you met yesterday, and ask, can we lever this rock aside? They find a sturdy pole, wedge it under the boulder, and lash it with leather straps as a lever. Together, you tug. The rock shifts, then slides clear of the path. You and the engineers prop it with smaller stones to prevent sudden slippage. You reflect, is this a testament to humanity's power when we cooperate? Past those two obstacles, you lead the group into the next valley. Beneath your feet, the grass is noticeably greener, and warmth seeps into the air. The scene unfolds before you. A wide, tranquil stream of clear water, thornbush flowers nodding white along its banks. Sunbeams dance through the leaves, scattering motes of light. You marvel, have we truly reached the springlands where ice gives way to new life? In the valley's heart, you spot the foundations of a large encampment, the spring village you've sought. Dozens of hide tents, slender wooden frames, line the stream. Villagers plant tender shoots in early greenhouse beds under makeshift shelters. You hear children chattering, laughter ringing like a song of renewal. You open your arms and step into the village, overwhelmed with emotion. Is this our true destination, where people finally settle and end this weary journey? The villagers greet you with astonishment and respect when they see you leading the band through so many perils. The village elder, a middle-aged woman with silver-streaked hair, approaches and clasps your hand. We welcome you as a hero, the one who guided us to this land. You smile shyly, your heart brimming with joy. Perseverance and teamwork have carried you through the stubborn ice. At the central bonfire, the first spring festival of the Thaw is underway. Fire drum dances, axe dancing, and the seed sowing ceremony. You're invited to share your group's experiences, how to kindle fire in blizzards, build cave greenhouses, and cross-collapse fissures. Standing amid thunderous applause, you wonder, will our story become legend, passed down through generations? When night falls, the little greenhouse tents glow warmly under the starry sky. You gather with the community, sipping fern soup and berry wine, savouring the mingled essence of ice and fire. Before drifting to sleep, you place your hand on the bear claw amulet and whisper, through persistence, creativity, and solidarity, humankind has conquered the ice. And now we write the first chapter of agriculture in the Thaw. You awaken to the sound of wind whispering through the young grass and birdsong in the bright green woods, inhaling air scented with wildflowers. Dawnlight filters through the canopy, casting warm rays on your face. You close your eyes for a moment of calm, then wonder, what surprises will this land bring today? Leaving the greenhouse tent, you step onto the soft grass, feeling the earth's warmth through your mammoth hide. Ahead lies a wide horizon, long straight beds covered in thin plastic to retain heat and moisture, each flanked by small wooden stakes tethered to irrigation lines. Could this be humanity's first true spring field, on thawing land? You approach the initial planting area, where young nomads gently drop fern seeds into freshly dug holes. Every action is precise, seed spacing, hole depth, and row orientation toward the light. You watch silently and ask yourself, will these small pockets be enough for the sprouts to break through, or might a sudden frost strike at any moment? The nomads smile and hand you a well-worn wooden spade. the earliest tool of farming in the thaw. You take it, pry into the soft, damp soil, place a seed carefully, close the earth around it, and top it with a thin layer of decomposed leaves. The seeds rest beneath the surface, waiting for warmth to awaken them. You whisper, "Can these hidden seeds hear my encouragement? Grow no matter how much cold remains." Moving to the next bed, you spot last night's work. Some seedlings have emerged, tiny green leaves beaded with dew. You kneel, gently lift a sprout with a fingertip, and brush dew off so it evaporates in the sun. Life stands before you, fragile yet resolute. You feel your heart swell. Is this the clearest proof of humanity's triumph over the ice? Mid-morning, you and the community gather in the field to inspect the automatic irrigation system. Small wooden troughs channel water from the side stream into each bed, then through hollow stone pipes to preserve warmth. You point with your staff at the schematic, explaining how to adjust flow when the stream runs high or low. You wonder, is this crude irrigation the start of the Ice Age's first hydraulic agriculture? After making adjustments, you climb the small levee, the raised earth bund holding water in the fields. From here you survey the valley, dark green beds of seedlings, interspersed with golden wild grasses and white blossoming thorns. Beyond them, rows of greenhouse tents warmed by oil lamps and embers. You breathe deeply and ask, when summer arrives, will these fields turn golden, with barley, or become draped in frost-tolerant blossoms? At midday by the stream, you and everyone enjoy a meal straight from the field. Young green soup, wild radishes, and smoked meat. The fresh taste of greens and the radish's sweetness revive you. Overcome, you exclaim, "Are we tasting the second spring of the Ice Age?" Late afternoon, as slanted sunbeams dance across the land, you join nomad potters gathering soft clay by the stream to fashion small bowls, tools for planting and dining. You place your birch bark map on a makeshift wooden table and inscribe with charcoal, "Springfield, where melting ice births life from earth and human hands." But tranquility brings danger. Suddenly, a strong gust billows the plastic covers like sails on the sea. Small hailstones begin to patter against the tent. Everyone rushes to secure the covers, weighing their edges with stones. You ask, will this unexpected hail ruin our first crop? Are we ready for savage, unforecast weather? In the urgent chaos, you take leather straps and bamboo slats to reinforce the greenhouse frame. Hail hammers like countless icy needles, and you stand amid the field, eyes closed, feeling each strike. Then ask, ice and blizzards were enemies. Will hail become the next foe of our spring planting? Yet the group's efforts pay off. The covers hold firm, and the seedlings remain unscathed. The hailstorm passes quickly, yielding to a final burst of intense sunshine. You exhale, watching muddy water trickle off the seedlings' leaves into vapour. A faint smile crosses your face as you think, are these harsh trials what forge humanity's true resilience on frozen land? Today's visit to the Springfield ends with a Mother Earth offering ceremony. Each person holds a small wooden stick, carves their name into it, and presses it into the soil as a gesture of gratitude for sustaining life. You too take part, planting your stick engraved with the amulet symbol at the strongest seedling. You whisper, "Thank you, Mother Earth, for granting us warmth amid the ice. Please continue to bless this, our first spring field." You awaken to the soft buzzing of cicadas in the thorn bushes, and the first light of dawn filtering through the thin plastic sheeting, illuminating rows of bright yellow rapeseed flowers, the first rapeseed field on Ice Age land. You wonder, does this vivid yellow bring hope to hearts hardened by the cold? Stepping out of the greenhouse tent, you place your hand on a delicate blossom. Dew pearls cling to its petals like crystal. The flower's gentle scent awakens senses numbed by ice. You lift the plastic cover so the plants can bathe directly in sunlight. Gazing across the field, awash in gold, you marvel. Is this proof that life always finds a way, no matter how long the frost reigns? Continuing your inspection, you and the nomads harvest early blossoms, cutting the stems with your bone knife and placing them in a basket woven from thorn branches. You taste a petal, slightly bitter with a subtle sweetness, indescribably fresh. You think, is this nature's gift to those brave enough to sow hope among the ice? Suddenly, from the field's edge comes a buzzing crescendo. Wild bees have built a hive in a nearby stone pillar. They swarm the rapeseed, drenched in golden pollen. You startle. Will the bees resent our harvest? A flicker of fear sparks as a few bees dart toward you. You hastily drape cloth over the basket and retreat behind a boulder. The mingled scent of rapeseed and bees reminds you that even joy can hide danger. Signalling the group to stand still and avoid trampling the rows, the village elder leans in and gently wafts smoke from the nearby embers toward the hive, a time-tested tactic to calm wild bees. The acrid smoke drifts across the field, soothing the swarm, which drifts back to its hive. You exhale. Is our understanding of nature what keeps this spring field safe? Once the bees have settled, you lead the group down the rows, inspecting plant vigour. Full leaves, slender yet sturdy stems. You ask, before sowing rapeseed, should we have performed manual pollination to boost flower set? The question gives the group pause. They agree to test lightly brushing each flower's stigma with a small brush to increase yield. At midday, in the rapeseed field, you and the group sit for a meal. Rapeseed soup with smoked meat, simple yet satisfyingly warm. You laugh. Who would have thought a humble meal of blossoms could become the most revered offering after so many days of ice? In the late afternoon, you join the craftsmen, constructing a pollen drying system, placing bamboo trays filled with rapeseed pollen over a warm hearth to preserve it for fermentation or as a supplemental food. You carefully record the technique on birch bark, drying rapeseed pollen, sealing flavour and nutrients for the long winter. As dusk falls, the rapeseed field glows amber under the sunset. You stand silently, watching the sky swirl with purple and gold. You wonder, will next season this field stretch all the way to the mountain's base and deep into the thorn thickets? Before returning to the greenhouse, you gather a bouquet of rapeseed flowers, tie it with leather cord, and hang it from the tent pole as a symbol of spring. You whisper, gentle rapeseed pollen, cradle these seedlings and keep human hearts warm for years to come. You wake at dawn to the soft chirping of cicadas in the thorn bushes and rays of sunlight filtering through the thin plastic sheeting, illuminating the rapeseed field, still glistening with morning dew. The faint scent of flowers mingles with damp earth, lifting your spirits. Is there any sight more beautiful after so many days of bitter cold? Stepping out of the greenhouse tent, you place your hand on a young rapeseed shoot, feeling warmth rising from the soil through its roots. At your feet, wild grasses intertwine with the crop's roots, forming a natural mulch that retains moisture. You wonder, is the harmony between cultivated plants and wild grasses the secret to this field's resilience against storms? Suddenly, a series of dry twigs snapping rings out from the forest edge. You look up and see a herd of short-horned deer slipping through the trees toward the field to nibble the tender leaves. You startle. Will they discover our young rapeseed? Fearing crop loss, you grab a cloth-wrapped leather stave, blow smoke toward the deer at the forest's edge to drive them off. The smoke drifts over dry leaves and rises high. The deer pause, then bound back into the woods. You breathe easier and ask, do our natural remedies keep this spring field safe? Wasting no time, you lead the group to harvest the earliest rapeseed blossoms, the largest dripping with nectar, enough to press for pollen and honey reserves. You carry the basket, joy sparkling in your eyes. Is there anyone happier than someone who sees their fields bloom? At midday, you and the builders begin work on the spring storehouse, a shelter on raised ground with heated stone floors and a sturdy wooden frame covered in hides. You and your team set posts, stretch hides and lash everything tight. Will this simple structure protect our harvest from hail and late-season gales? As the storehouse roof nears completion, a sudden gust announces an approaching storm. Dark clouds race in, blanketing the sky. You signal the group to quickly weigh down the tent's edges and reinforce the roof. You ask yourself, can this late-season storm destroy our efforts, or will it make the field stronger? Within moments, small hailstones begin to patter on plastic and hide. You take shelter under the storehouse eaves, watching the field's rapeseed beds buried under hail. The storm eases into a steady drizzle. You and the group wade into the field, lift the covers, and inspect each plant. Fortunately, no leaf is smashed. You sigh with relief. Is our good fortune proof that this field can endure any hardship? In the late afternoon, after the unexpected hail, you hold a post-storm survey, measuring soil compaction, recording moisture levels, and checking the irrigation system. Every note matters. By closely tracking soil and weather changes, can we better predict future harvests? At sunset, the rapeseed field glistens with water, and the last light ignites each droplet like diamonds. You stand silently at the field's edge, listening to water trickle through channels and leaves rustle in the breeze. You wonder, did these trials and storms make our spring field all the more precious? Before returning to the greenhouse tent, you pick a dewy rapeseed blossom and inhale deeply. The flower's sweet fragrance dispels your fatigue. You whisper, may this rapeseed bloom record the story of our first spring on Ice Age land, a legend of willpower, creativity, and the fierce desire to live. You awaken to the wind ripping through the sky, snowflakes as large as coins swirling and striking your face. The frigid air is no longer merely a challenge, but an invisible enemy clawing at your flesh with every breath. You clutch your mammoth hide coat, lips numbing, fingers stiff inside your leather gloves. You wonder, will this blizzard sweep away all we have built? Looking around at endless white, you see the omens of disaster. The sky a heavy grey shroud. The winds howl rising like a beast devouring earth and sky, and the ground, where rapeseed fields, rice beds and heated soil mounds once thrived, crushing under the weight of new snow into unbreakable ice. You cannot hesitate. Every second adds another inch of snow. In that decisive moment, you scoop up your pouch of fern seeds, fold your birch bark map tight, and press the bear claw amulet against your chest. You must reach the thermal refuge, the safest place, with the least cold that nomadic groups have whispered is the last sanctuary of survival. You ask yourself, can I navigate through this whiteout? Planting your staff in the fresh snow, you press onward. Each step is a trial. Snow up to your ankles, then knees, then waist. Pale light flashes as you swing your staff, revealing a deep drift beside you, the faint outline of reindeer tracks now buried. You know the fate of those creatures, like cave bears and mammoths once sources of valuable hides and meat, now lies under solid ice. You swallow hard and wonder, what creatures, if any, still survive ahead, and what lies frozen beneath? A sudden gust knocks you off balance, and you tumble into soft snow but scramble to your feet. The cold seems intent on burying you alive, yet your will drives you upward. You pull a small strip of mammoth hide over your head, squint your eyes, steady yourself, and press on. You wonder, can a lone human cross this storm and find the final shelter? Through the swirling snow you glimpse a sheer rock face. According to elder nomads, this is the food haven, a crevice where a warm underground spring seeps out, raising humidity and temperature. You decide to cling to the rock, carve small handholds with your bone knife, and climb a few meters above the snow. Your body strains like a bowstring, muscles screaming from cold and fatigue. You ask, will this gamble save my life? Reaching the crevice's mouth, you slip inside, stepping over ice-encrusted limestone. A gentle warmth greets you like an embrace, dissolving the numbness. You draw deep, hot breaths and feel your throat thaw. Your heart revives, but you dare not relax. For one misstep, and incoming snow could seal the entrance, trapping you in the cold night. You wonder, will this crevice hold until the storm ends? Safe in that pocket of warmth, you recall the months of journey, from the first ice slopes, through the warm valley, spring fields, to the blazing rapeseed. each a glorious stars. Chapter torn apart by this storm. You bite your lip and stroke your amulet, your symbol of resilience, and whisper, though this blizzard bury all hope, I will not yield. I will survive and lead my people to the least frozen land. Amid the crevice's warmth, you spread your map on damp rock and plot the next course. The wind's howl at the entrance reminds you, the journey is not over. You frown, lift your seed pouch, and offer a determined smile, because here, in this hidden refuge, lies the beginning of undying hope. You hold your breath, listening to the wind roaring outside the rock crevice, each blast sounding like a death knell. Inside the narrow fissure, the temperature is warmer than outside, but the confined space causes warmth to dissipate quickly. You wonder, can I hold on to body heat until this storm passes? Your hands tremble around your staff as your eyes track the snow clinging to the crevice's mouth. Each flake falling against the rock face leaves streaks of ice. You blink and realise you're not the first to seek shelter here. Behind more curved walls you spot faint carvings, the primitive refuge of your ancestors. How many nights did they endure like this? Ahead, the exit is blocked by a slab of smooth, ice-covered limestone. You plant your staff in a small rock fissure and test a strange, icy foothold. Your soul instantly numbs, as if hundreds of frozen glass shards prick you. Pain begs you to stop, but your survival instinct drives you on. Can these trembling steps carve a path for my people to escape this death trap? Suddenly a shriek of cracking echoes. The ice slab above loses balance and shatters, burying the narrow opening you had just cleared. You press back against the wall, heart racing. The sudden crisis makes your warmth contract. You wonder, if this ice storm collapses the entire crevice, will I be trapped forever in this frozen dark? But you refuse to give in. Drawing your bare claw amulet closer, you gently probe the rock face for a weaker seam you can pry open. Warmed by the crevice's heat, the limestone beneath your fingertips yields a narrow gap. You position your staff precisely, leverage down on it, then carve the crevice wider with your bone knife. A loose block of ice falls away, revealing a tight tunnel behind it. You steady yourself, then squeeze through, an ice passage barely wide enough for you to pass. Emerging, you collapse onto fresh snow and inhale the scent of damp stone and underground steam. You've escaped the collapsed ice. The wind still howls, but you have surmounted a mortal obstacle. You whisper, could this be the magic of the amulet? Pressing on, you follow the crevice's edge where the sound of rushing underground water echoes beneath the rock. In the cramped space, each exhalation crystallizes into tiny mist clouds that glitter in the light. You wonder, is each step a defiance of this savage storm? Do I have the faith to lead my people beyond this deathly zone? Finally, past the broken rock, you emerge onto a wider snowfield. Snow still falls heavily, but the wind has eased. Through the swirling flakes, you glimpse the flicker of firelight from a makeshift refuge erected by another nomadic group. Your heart soars. Have I reached the safest place? The thermal refuge at last. You hurry toward the warm glow, each step a leap from desolate darkness. Reaching the fire, you hear cheers mixed with the crackle of burning wood. Warmth spreads and soothes your frozen skin. You lay your folded map on a boulder and murmur, I have survived the fiercest storm, and now I step into the light, leading my people to the least frozen land. You curl up by the warm fire, your fingers still numb from surviving the fierce storm, yet your heart soars with joy. Life has triumphed. Around you, the weary faces of your caravan now glow with renewed vigour, cheeks flushed, laughter bubbling through hot breath. You wonder, who among us could have imagined this journey would end in such a glorious moment? Small groups flow toward the refuge, embracing each other in celebration. Cheers and pats on the back. The reunion amid the cold brings tears to your eyes. Is there anything more precious than being alive, being shared with others, and being welcomed in the heart of a blizzard? Your leader, the one who tended the fire with you through long nights, steps forward and lays a hand on your shoulder. We have survived the deadliest storm of the Ice Age. Thanks to your courage and unity, we stand here in the least frozen land. You smile and nod, eyes wandering to the distant rapeseed field, gently swaying in the warm breeze. Together, everyone erects a small flagpole, raising a leather banner emblazoned with the bear claw amulet, the symbol of your survival journey. You think, will this flag become a beacon for future generations? In the quiet that follows the storm, you and your people offer fragrant smoke up the flagpole. The Light the Spring ritual officially begins. The aroma of hearth smoke mingles with roasting grains, warming the entire refuge. Bowls of fresh green soup and blossoming radishes release sweet, fragrant steam. You sip the soup with your eyes closed. Could any feast taste better than this, when I realise I'm still alive? After the meal, everyone gathers around a large stone podium. You are invited to speak, holding the birch bark map of your route, your voice ringing out. We journeyed from icy wastes through the warm valley, the spring fields, the golden rapeseed, and finally braved this great storm to arrive here. Each leg taught us about fire, earth, water, and the power of the human will. You hold the amulet aloft. This bear claw warmed our bodies and etched in us the belief that whatever storm we face, we will overcome it and together plant the seeds of our future. Applause echoes through the crevice. In every eye shines enduring hope. You look around the refuge grounds, the leather tents lined along the warm spring, the vibrant vegetable beds, the smoke-warmed cavern shelters, and the steaming stream running through. And you wonder, is this the beginning of a new civilization, one no longer bound by ice? Night falls, torches and bonfire smoke weaving together like a miniature galaxy. You and your people sing the rebirth amid the blizzard anthem, a timeless melody passed down through generations of nomads. Each verse carries faith in a brighter tomorrow. You close your eyes and listen, pondering. Will these echoes travel through time, reminding humanity never to forget our ancestors? Heroic journey. When the celebration ends, you stand by the warm stream, gazing up at the star-filled sky. The water's murmur whispers, continue onward, nurture the land and live. You vow silently, blizzards may bury the world, but the human spirit will always bloom.